This lesson is called Pre-2 because it's not quite in Chapter 2, but it's information that you need in order to be successful in Chapter 2. So we do this quick little lesson about rewriting equations, so that way when we get to those types of questions, you have that skill. First thing is to just talk about some terminology. An equation that has two or more variables is called a literal equation. The way that you can rewrite a literal equation is to solve for one variable in terms of the other. This is different than other equations because in all the other equations you were able to find the value of the variable, but in these examples, if you look below, you can see that there are too many variables. And so if you have two variables in one equation, you can't figure out what each of them are unless you have other information, which we are not going to talk about. So for now, we're just going to take one variable and rewrite it by itself using our inverses that we've learned, and write it in terms of the other one. So here's how it works. So we're going to solve the equation for y. Now for this to happen, you need to know which variable they want alone. So they're telling us that they want y alone. So if I want to get the y by itself, I'm going to move the 5x to the other side. So let's do minus 5x. And so I bring things down, I get 2y equals 6 minus 5x. You can't combine these because one is a number and the other is a variable. So you just have to rewrite it as 6 minus 5x. The other thing is that students don't realize that you can move this whole term as one unit. So you can see 5x is being added. That means that you can create 5x being subtracted on the other side. You don't have to first move the x, then move the 5. It's actually wrong if you do it like that. You move the entire term together. And then the last step, if we want to get the y by itself, is to divide by 2. Now this is something that might seem a little weird to you, but usually we do it once on the left and then once on the right. But that's actually not balanced, because if one term gets divided, every term has to be divided. So even though it looks uneven, every single term has to get divided by 2, not just once to the left and once to the right. So now the final thing that I get is y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then 5 divided by 2 is not a whole number, so we're just going to leave it as the fraction 5 over 2x. Now, if you wanted to, you could write it as y equals 3 minus 2.5x, but I'm going to tell you this. That's actually not going to be helpful for Chapter 2. So, since it's not going to be helpful, don't turn fractions into decimals. If it doesn't go in evenly, you might want to annotate this. If it doesn't go in evenly, you always leave the fraction. Alright, now the section down below asks you to try these on your own, so you're just doing that same sort of thing. If you feel like you're not ready to do one on your own, then you can do number 1 with me. But what we're going to do is get the y by itself. Now, sometimes the question will ask you to get the x by itself, but in this case, we're going to just practice and get the y by itself in all of the examples. So if I want to get the y by itself, the first thing that I do is subtract 10x. So we'll bring it down, negative y equals 20 minus 10x. Now you're still not done because the y is not by itself. It still has a negative 1 coefficient. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 1. So you do it to every single term. So the final answer is y equals negative 20 plus 10x. Alright, so now try numbers 2, 3, and 4 on your own. If you have any questions, write them down and ask me when you come to class.